In Siberia, nothing asks for your attention. No noise, no rush, no urgency, just cold and time. Living in Siberia isn't about surviving the cold. It's about surviving the slowness. Because here's what nobody tells you about extreme isolation. It doesn't break you with drama. It breaks you with silence, with sameness, with days that refuse to end and hours that refuse to move. Most of us spend our entire lives running from stillness. We fill every gap, every pause. Every quiet moment gets stuffed with notifications, obligations, distractions. Siberia takes all of that away, and then it asks you a question most people never have to answer. Who are you when nothing is happening? This isn't a story about adventure. It's not about survival skills or wilderness expertise. It's about what happens to a person when life stops rushing them. When the world goes quiet enough that you can finally hear yourself think. And what some people discover is they don't like what they hear. If you're ready to explore what life looks like when everything modern disappears, hit that subscribe button. This channel dives into places that change how you see the world and yourself. Time doesn't pass normally here. In cities, time vanishes. You blink and a week is gone. A month, a year. Life becomes a slideshow of moments you barely remember because you were always looking ahead to the next thing. But in Siberia, time refuses to disappear. Minutes feel longer when nothing distracts you. You notice things you'd never see in a rush. The way light shifts across snow, how wind sounds different at night, the pattern of frost forming on a window. These aren't poetic observations. They're what happens when your brain stops being overloaded. When there's nothing competing for your attention, the smallest details become enormous. Days don't disappear here. They sit with you. People who live in remote Siberian villages talk about this phenomenon. How a single day can feel like 3. Not because it's hard, though it often is, but because every hour has weight. Every moment registers. There's a woman in Oymyakon who's lived there for 67 years. She says the hardest part isn't the cold. It's learning to be present. Because when you have nowhere to go and nothing demanding your attention, you're left with only yourself. And for most of modern humanity, that's terrifying. We've built entire industries around avoiding exactly that. Social media, streaming, gaming, shopping, all of it designed to fill the gaps, to keep you moving, to prevent you from ever sitting still long enough to feel time actually passing. Siberia removes the option to run. It forces you into a relationship with time that most people have completely forgotten. The kind where you actually experience hours instead of losing them. Where days have a beginning, a middle, and an end, not just vanish into a blur of productivity and exhaustion. And here's what's strange. Some people find peace in it. They stop measuring time by what they accomplished. They stop judging days as wasted or productive. They just live them. But others, they break. Because when time stretches like this, you can't outrun your thoughts anymore. Every regret, every anxiety, every question you've been avoiding, it all catches up. And there's nowhere left to hide. Modern life removes friction. And everything about the world you know is designed to eliminate resistance. One-click ordering, climate control, food delivered, entertainment on demand. You don't think about water until you turn on a faucet. You don't think about warmth until you adjust a thermostat. You don't think about survival at all because you're not required to. Siberia brings it back. Here, comfort isn't assumed, it's earned every single day. Water freezes, pipes burst, generators fail, vehicles won't start, food runs low. The simplest tasks become complex operations requiring planning, effort, and constant vigilance. You don't just live in Siberia, you maintain your ability to live there. There's a family outside Yakutsk that spends 2 hours every morning just preparing for the day. Checking fuel, thawing equipment, making sure nothing critical has frozen overnight. This isn't occasional maintenance, it's daily survival architecture. And here's what happens to people in that environment. They stop taking things for granted. When warmth requires effort, you appreciate it. When food takes planning, you value it. When comfort is hard-won, it actually means something. Contrast that with modern life, where abundance has made us numb. We complain about Wi-Fi speed. We're annoyed when delivery takes 2 days instead of 1. We've become so insulated from friction that we've forgotten what it feels like to need something. Siberia reintroduces need. Not artificial need, the kind advertising creates. Real need. The kind where if you don't act, there are consequences. Some people find this exhausting. They see it as punishment. A life stripped of convenience and ease, forcing them into unnecessary hardship. But others discover something unexpected. Purpose. Because when your day has clear stakes, stay warm, stay fed, stay safe, there's no room for existential dread. You're not wondering if your life has meaning. You're too busy creating the conditions that allow life to continue. It's not philosophical, it's immediate. And for people drowning in the meaninglessness of modern comfort, that immediacy is a lifeline. But it comes at a cost. Because the moment you stop maintaining, the environment wins. Siberia doesn't forgive laziness or distraction. It punishes them immediately. Which means you never truly relax. There's always something to monitor. Something to check. Something that could go wrong. Comfort, when it comes, is temporary. Fragile. Earned minute by minute. And that's either freedom from complacency or a prison of constant vigilance. It depends entirely on who you are. Drop a comment and let me know. Could you live somewhere that demands this much from you every single day? Or does modern comfort matter more than you thought? Isolation in Siberia isn't loud. It's quiet enough to forget yourself. When people imagine extreme isolation, they picture drama, desperation, someone screaming into the void or writing in a journal by candlelight, slowly losing their mind. But real isolation isn't cinematic. It's routine. It's drinking tea alone at the same table for the 3,000th morning in a row. It's recognizing the same patterns in the frost. It's knowing exactly how long it takes for silence to settle after the wind stops. There are villages in Siberia with populations under 50. Everyone knows everyone. Conversations repeat. Stories are told and retold until they become background noise. There's no novelty, no surprise, no spontaneity. Just the same people, the same routines, the same landscape, stretching endlessly in every direction. For someone used to variety, this is suffocating. Cities condition you to expect constant stimulation. New faces, new places, new experiences delivered on demand. Your brain adapts to high-frequency input. It expects novelty. Take that away and withdrawal begins. People in remote Siberian communities describe a specific kind of restlessness that sets in after the first few months. Not boredom, something deeper. A gnawing sense that life is happening elsewhere. That you're missing out on something important, even though rationally you know you're not. Social media makes this worse. Because now you can see what you're missing. You can watch the world move without you in real time. Every scroll reinforces the feeling that you've chosen wrong, that isolation is a mistake. But here's what some people learn after staying long enough. The feeling passes. Not because isolation gets easier, not because you adapt to it, but because you stop defining yourself by what's happening around you. In cities, your identity is relational. You're someone's colleague, someone's friend, someone's neighbor. You exist in context, constantly reaffirmed by interactions and social positioning. In Siberia, none of that works. There's no audience, no witnesses, no external validation. You're just you. And for people who've built their entire sense of self around external feedback, this is an identity crisis. Who are you when no one's watching? When no one cares? When your existence doesn't register on any social map? Some people collapse under that question, but others, they find relief because the pressure to perform disappears. The anxiety about how you're perceived evaporates. The exhausting maintenance of social identity, it all becomes irrelevant. You're free to just be. Not someone, not anyone, just present. And isolation stops feeling like deprivation. It starts feeling like space. But not everyone gets there. Because the process of letting go of external identity is painful. It feels like disappearing, and most people would rather suffer in connection than find peace in absence. Siberia doesn't judge either choice, it just sits there, waiting. Some people need noise to feel alive. Siberia takes that away. There's a specific kind of person who thrives in chaos. They need movement, pressure, stimulation. Their nervous system is calibrated for high-input environments. They think faster under stress. They feel more real when life is demanding. Put them in Siberia and they decay. Not physically, though the cold is brutal, but psychologically, because there's nothing to react to, no crisis to solve, no challenge to overcome. Just long, slow, uneventful days that refuse to provide the adrenaline they need to feel functional. These are the people who leave. Sometimes after months, sometimes after years. But always for the same reason: the silence is unbearable. They describe it as drowning in slow motion, as if time itself is suffocating them. They're desperate for something, anything to happen, for an emergency, a problem, a distraction. But Siberia offers none of those. It just continues, indifferent, unchanging. And for people wired for intensity, that indifference is torture. Then there's a different kind of person. Someone who spent their whole life feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated, exhausted by the constant demands of modern existence. They arrive in Siberia burned out, fried, running from a life that never stopped asking for more. And at first, the slowness feels like relief. Finally, they can breathe. Finally, no one needs anything from them. Finally, they can rest. But after a while, something else emerges. Because they weren't just running from external demands, they were running from themselves. And in Siberia, there's nowhere left to run. All the thoughts they'd been avoiding, all the questions they'd been postponing, all the grief and regret and fear they'd been outrunning, it all catches up. And the silence they thought would save them becomes the thing they can't escape. There are stories of people who came to Siberia seeking peace and left more fractured than when they arrived. Not because the environment was harsh, but because it was honest. It didn't let them hide. Siberia doesn't care about your stories. It doesn't validate your pain or celebrate your resilience. It just is. And when you strip away all the narratives you've built around yourself, sometimes what's left is uncomfortable to look at. Some people face that discomfort and grow. They sit with the hard truths. They process what they've been avoiding. They rebuild themselves from the inside out. Others break. They fracture under the weight of unfiltered self-awareness. They can't reconcile who they thought they were with who they actually are when no one's watching. And the scary part? There's no way to know which kind of person you are until you're already there. Siberia doesn't test your strength. It tests how much of yourself you need to feel whole. And that's a question most people never have to answer. If this video is making you think differently about isolation, go ahead and like it so others can find it. And subscribe. We're going deeper into places that challenge everything you think you know. There's a man who's lived alone in a cabin outside Verkhoyansk for 19 years. No electricity, no running water, no neighbors for 80 kilometers in any direction. When asked why he stays, he doesn't talk about beauty or adventure or finding himself. He says, "Out here, I don't have to be anyone." Not in a sad way, not in a defeated way, just factually. In the world you know, existence is performance. Every interaction is a negotiation. Every relationship has expectations. Every version of yourself is tailored for an audience. You wake up and put on a persona. You go to work and wear a different one. You come home and adjust again. And after years of that, you forget there was ever anything underneath. Siberia strips all of that away. It doesn't ask you to be strong or interesting or successful. It doesn't care if you're likable or impressive or productive. It just lets you exist. And for some people, that's the first time in their entire lives they've experienced that. No judgment, no pressure, no performance, just presence. But here's the paradox, that freedom is also a void. Because without external structure, without roles to play and expectations to meet, you have to generate your own meaning, your own purpose, your own reason to continue. And most people can't do that. We're so conditioned to derive value from outside ourselves that when the external world goes silent, we collapse inward. Siberia reveals that dependency. It shows you how much of your identity is borrowed, how much of your sense of self comes from reflection rather than substance. And then it asks, is that enough? For some, the answer is no. And they leave. They return to the noise, the rush, the comfortable distraction of a life that never stops moving. For others, the answer is yes. And they stay. Not because Siberia is easy, but because the alternative, a life of endless performance, is worse. There's no right answer. Just a question most of us will never have to face. And because modern life has built walls around that question. It's designed entire systems to make sure you never have to sit in silence long enough to hear it. But in Siberia, the question is unavoidable. And the answer reveals who you actually are. Not who you think you are, not who you want to be, who you are when there's no one left to convince. Siberia doesn't test your strength. It tests how much of yourself you need to feel whole. And that might be the most terrifying test of all. If this changed how you think about isolation, solitude, or even modern life, leave a comment. Tell me, could you survive the slowness, or would it break you? Hit subscribe if you want more videos that explore the edges of human experience, the places that reveal what we're really made of. And if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is for. Thanks for watching. Now go sit in silence for 5 minutes. See what happens.